I've actually got 4 things about my week. I've got what's fueled my fire. I'm going to tell you about 2016 in Client Challenge of the Week. I'm going to tell you my word of the year in word of the week.
I've got all of those bits. I just got the first bit wrong.
I don't think it's wrong, Nicola. I don't think there can be a wrong. Right. You start then, and I'll ignore you and go on and do it the way I was going to do it.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited, actually.
Why? Because we're doing a bumper Christmas and New Year issue today.
Yes. The reason I'm excited is because going back over everything and then thinking about the year to come has got me right G'd up, Judith.
Oh, good. Well, you're ahead of me, really, because although those were my ideas, I didn't find them quite as easy as you clearly have, so that's good.
Well, I didn't say I found them easy. I found them inspirational.
Ah, good.
Yes. So that was quite interesting. So we've got a slightly different format today for our lovely listeners. We're going to recap the year, aren't we? Which was your idea and a great idea too. And we're going to leave out the client challenge of the week. But I'm not sure. Are we going to put in one challenge that we've overcome in 2016?
I think we could go with the flow today. I know you've got to, let's just see what comes up. I mean, we haven't rehearsed this in advance, so you bring your bits and I'll bring mine. Yours sounds like it might include a challenge. I'm not sure mine does, but I don't think it matters. Without wishing to spoil the magic of Christmas for the listener, we are recording both of these on the 14th of December. And I don't know about you, but let me just have a see what the temperature is here. It's actually rather boiling hot. I'm in a sleeveless T-shirt with the window open.
Unlike here where the temperature's plummeted and I've had to tuck my vest into my leggings today.
Oh, my word. You're tucked in. Well, yes. Well, 7 degrees here, so I'm lying slightly. I must have had the central heating over cranked. But on my chrome thing, it could almost be stupor. It's not actually, it's Turkey. But, you know, those little coloured boats on a lovely turquoisey sea with mountains in the background I've got, which is very, very summery and not Decemberish at all.
No, I mean, the weather is absolutely fantastic here. It's sunny. You know, every day I wake up and I look out and I see sun, and that lifts my spirits. It really does. So how are we going to do this? This instead of doing, what's happened this week, we're going to do what's happened.
No, we're going to do exactly the same format.
Okay.
Well, you start telling us about your week.
Well, I've done highlights of the year. Oh dear, have I done it wrong? And
I thought we would do the yeary stuff in the space where we normally do Client Challenge of the Week.
Oh right, okay.
Why don't we just for heaven's sake, freestyling. Tell us what you were going to. I've actually got 4 things about my week. I've got what's fueled my fire. I'm going to tell you about 2016 in Client Challenge of the Week. I'm going to tell you my word of the year in word of the week.
I've got all of those bits. I just got the first bit wrong.
I don't think it's wrong, Nicola. I don't think there can be a wrong. Right. You start then, and I'll ignore you and go on and do it the way I was going to do it.
No, I'm good. I can improvise. Right, so my week. It's all been heads down, Judith. I am working my little arse off. Because I've been learning a new bit of software, which is called Deadline Funnel, which is a really, really nice bit of kit. I haven't been so excited by a bit of software for a long time. It's an interesting one because it allows you to put people into a waiting list and then turn that waiting list on and off automatically. So it enables you to open your cart and close it. Either according to specific dates, so if you're launching something, then it does all the heavy lifting for you, or if you want to, say, keep your waiting list closed but only open it 3 times a year or 4 times a year, or you can do it according to how many days after someone goes onto the waiting list. And the reason for that is the fact that people tend to take action when they're presented with a deadline. So if you feel your product or service is going to help someone, but you feel that they might need a little bit of help to make a decision, then I don't think there's anything wrong with using something like this to give people a nice deadline that is a true deadline. So if someone comes back later, they'll find everything's turned off and closed. So I've been learning that, and I've got to say the bloke who runs this company is incredible. He's been speaking to me from his car, Judith, although I did ask him to pull over because he was making me nervous, to give me support. So there's been that, and I've also been working on my app, which is, I'm not joking, probably this week ready for beta testing. I'm so excited about that. It makes me feel faint with excitement every time I think about it. So that's what my week's been about. Head down, focus, get on with it.
Okay, so my week, I'll tell you my week one last, but I've got 3 excitements to begin with, as I've already confessed to the listener. It is only the 14th of December today, so what I'm about to tell you first will make sense. Last night I saw the supermoon, and it was absolutely fantastic. The skies over London were clear. I saw it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I drew back the curtains. I was bathed in supermoon moonlight for 4 hours until 7 o'clock in the morning. I feel spooky and magical and mooned up. And if that wasn't enough, I then woke up and watched Bruno Mars on Carpool Karaoke. I absolutely love Bruno Mars. They were so funny on this.
Oh,
it was just fantastic. And then I saw your video about guinea pigs eating sprouts. Now, as far as I'm concerned, sprouts are guinea pig fodder. Which are the 2 things you like, the farm and the guinea pigs, or the guinea pigs and the sprouts?
I love guinea pigs, full stop, and I love Brussels sprouts.
I think there's no excuse on God's earth for a Brussels sprout. I will, if my back's really against the wall, to be sociable, eat 1 or 2 on Christmas Day. But when I saw those guinea pigs eating sprouts, I thought, hurrah, we found a use for sprouts at last. Sprouts are Marmite. Every year when I complain on Facebook about sprouts, all the sprout fans come out of the woodwork and say, no, I love sprouts.
I like them so much. I've got a bag of sprouts in the fridge right now that I bought from Katerina's supermarket.
Oh, yes, you are bizarre. You are bizarre. Now, my thing about the week, which is quite exciting, is last week you told us that the 6th of December was St. Nicholas's Day.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, isn't he Santa Claus?
Yes.
And I promised that I would go off and look it up. And indeed, he is. St. Nick is Santa Claus. And for about 200 years ago, from the early 1800s, they suddenly, I don't know how he morphed from being St. Nicholas into Santa Claus, but I found you a little poem. I'm going to read it to you. It's very festive. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on then.
It's got 3 verses of 4 lines, and the 3rd verse has got 5 lines, which doesn't make any sense at all. But here we go. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and then it goes dot, 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 dot. So I'm afraid I don't know what happens next, but I guess it goes on in that vein. But there you go. St. Nicholas is indeed Santa Claus.
Well, as St. Nicholas lived in Turkey, dressed head to foot in fur, he'd have been a bit over.
Well, I think this article here, which I will link to for anybody that cares. I mean, obviously Google is one's friend. It's the early 1800s in America. They suddenly morphed him into, the history behind what we now think of as Santa Claus. But I did know, and there's a song, one of those town songs about old Saint Nick. I thought that when you said it last week, isn't he Santa? And indeed he is.
Well, they just completely made that up for commercial purposes, I think.
Well, and then we could say we're the forerunner of, what do we call them? Hallmark cards, couldn't we?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
There's another little poem here. Old Santa Claus with much delight, his reindeer drives the frosty night. Chimney tops and tracks of snow to bring his yearly gifts to you, which doesn't really scan, but there you go.
I think the dot, dot, dot means you get to finish line 6.
Well, I think that 5th line is the beginning of, God knows, there are probably gazillions of verses. Oh, hang on. It's called A Visit from St. Nicholas, now better known as The Night Before Christmas. So actually, probably some of our brainy listeners even know that poem.
Well, I think you should put it on Facebook and let everyone finish that 6th line and see what you come up with.
Yes, if only I had the time, Nicola. Right.
Yes.
Plum, plum,
Now, tell me what's fueled your fire.
What's fueled my fire this year has been funny, the things that pop into your mind, isn't it? Ordering online, Judith. I have, with your encouragement, embraced the whole concept of ordering online to the point that I'm now ordering online and getting things delivered to my local supermarket for collection, which is bizarre. Work
when you order online to have it delivered to your supermarket, is the postage and packing significantly more expensive, or are you happy to pay that because of the convenience of having the thing you want delivered?
It's between £5 and £7.
That's not too bad, is it?
I mean, it's no more than you pay in the UK, I don't think. You have to be a bit careful when you order things to make sure that it's fit for international delivery, but apart from that, it's fine. And the funny thing is, you're going to I'm going to the supermarket sort of every 2 or 3 days anyway. So
yes.
It's not like I'm running in.
And is it only Amazon, or do other suppliers ship to you there?
Well, no, I could if I wanted to order an electric blanket from a shop in Athens.
You're at the electric blanket shop, yes, the blanket shop.
The blanket shop. I know that my neighbour Stella has Marks and Spencer's and John Lewis deliveries.
Oh,
so even some of your favourite shops deliver down here, down this neck of the woods, Judith.
What did she say? Marks and Spencer's and what?
John Lewis.
Oh, yes, good.
Oh, very civilised.
Yeah.
We all think it's the back arse of Beyond, but it isn't at all. It's got quite a high level of sophistication.
Well, it's a global world, which we're all in two minds about, aren't we?
Yes. And so ordering online has fueled my fire. Work this year has fueled my writing, tech, great books, and I have listed about 10. Am I allowed to read them?
Yes.
The ones that stood out. I went right back through. Talk about the prep I did for this episode. I can't tell you.
Well, I'm impressed.
Sat in bed and went right back through my Amazon orders to see what I'd read this year. The one thing stood out for me, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. That was a brilliant book. Content Machine, Dan Norris. Subtle Art.
Say it slowly, because I'm not going to put this in the show notes, this list of 10. Let's start again and say them slowly in case people want to write them down.
The one thing, can't remember the author, is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Content Machine by Dan Norris. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a by Mark Manson, great name.
Yeah, now I linked to that one in last week's episode 109 has a link to that book for anybody that wants it.
Profit First, one of my favourite books on finance to date. The second book by the Traction team called Getting a Grip. Value-Based Fees. Now I paid nearly $50 for this book by Alan Weiss. And it was, honestly, if you're a consultant of any kind at all, or you struggle to name a decent fee for your services, read that book. It's awesome. Winning the Story Wars, can't remember the author. Code of Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhani, really enjoyed that. And Hustle, but that was right at the beginning of the year, so I can only remember a couple of bits from that, but I remember it was an extremely good read.
That one makes me want to sing.
What, Hustle? Oh, do the Hustle, Famicor and the Soul City Symphony. Oh, that's a tune, Judith. Judith, that's a tune.
Anyway, there we go. That's the Hustle.
Yeah. And I can sing that in my head, but it doesn't come out my mouth. Okay, what has fueled your fire then?
Well, it hasn't been a year. I've only done what's fueled my fire for the week, because typically you and I have miscommunicated. It doesn't matter. Do you remember me explaining twice last week my word game? And I put it in my newsletters. Well, that's caused a great deal of intrigue, because everybody wanted to know which word I'd chosen for them, and I never promised to tell them which word I'd chosen for them. And they're all trying to guess which one I'd chosen for them, which I mostly didn't tell, to be honest, because the point of it was for them to choose words that they would like to be able to use to describe themselves, sort of aspirational. But what it's made me think, I mean, I love words, and what it's made me think is more word games. You know, it's fun. Word games are fun.
Yes, they are. I like words a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my things that fueled my fire this year was writing more, so I'm back to writing, which is good fun. Okay.
Are you eating your breakfast? What are you having? Or your lunch? It could be your lunch.
No, Greek yogurt with a bit of muesli thrown in. Sorry,
nice.
I'll try not to munch in the direction of the microphone. I have got quite a lot of things that fueled my fire, but obviously we've moved on now.
Well, you might be able to incorporate them in the next one, because I've written here Celebrate and Sum Up 2016, and I've only got 5 items, and it's only 13 minutes past the hour. So if you've got more you want to say it.
Oh, well, I will then. Podcasts, I've listened to Superfast Business, Think Think at Get, Startup Podcast continues to inspire, and Zero to Scale. Lovely boys in America never fail to send me to sleep. Takes me at least 3 nights to listen to one of theirs. Creators have really inspired me this year. Fueled my fire. The Daily V, which has gone daily since Casey Neistat stopped producing daily ones. Phoebe doing her thing, watching her churning out her little videos is really inspirational for me. Game of Thrones was amazing. West Wing, that you recommended, I really enjoyed that. And Suits. We're ploughing through Suits right now, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I love Suits.
Yeah, really good. And
it all gets a bit serious by about season 5. Once the main joke is out of the bag, about him not having been to Harvard, it's not quite so good.
We're on season 3 at the moment, and it's a little bit odd where they keep trying to cross and double cross each other, and I looked at Sarah sometimes and say, have you got a clue what's going on?
It's better at the beginning when Harvey's so marvellous and handsome and solves everybody's problems all of the time, and the intrigue about will he, won't he with his PA. But once you're past that section, it kind of goes downhill a bit. So don't worry about abandoning it if you get bored by 4, 5 and 6.
No, right, fair enough.
Okay.
And then the other thing that fueled my fire this year was travel, and a glimpse of excitement travel to come. I've had wind of an event that's invitation only. Gary Vee mentioned it in one of his episodes. He was just talking about what he was doing in the next sort of few weeks. And he mentioned something I'd never heard of before, which, I don't even know if I should say. It's a bit like Fight Club, they won't let you in if you talk about it. And I've gone tracking it down, and they've got something happening in Los Angeles next November, which is, again, invitation only, but there was a place where you could put your name and email in to see if you could be interviewed to come. And when I looked at the people who were doing this event that Gary Vee's going to, it's art, music, entrepreneurship, well-being, and I can't remember the other thing. But I thought the kind of people that were listed on this event that Gary Vee's going to, I thought, oh my God, I've got to get onto that somehow. I mean, unbelievable people like Quincy Jones and people like that. So it's exciting to hear about something that you've never heard of and that is invitation only, and that some of the people must know about. Do you know what I mean? So that's my mission for this year, is to track that down.
Okay.
Where are we at now, Judith?
Well, we're at what we used to call Client Challenge of the Week, which I'm calling this week Celebrating Sum Up 2016, which you've begun. Shall I give you my list?
Yes, do.
Well, I'm as surprised as the listeners will be to discover that on the 14th of December I'm still living in my home, when you will remember that it sold within 3 days in April.
That is astonishing. What's happening? I mean, what?
I want my investment to come through so I don't have to sell. And so I'm not encouraging buyer number 2 at all.
I thought you gave her a deadline, or we're going to give her a deadline.
I think we suggested something. I don't think we gave her a deadline, because I can't afford to give her a deadline, because she's my only buyer. I can't put it back on the market because of all the complexities to do with the freeholder. Okay? So she's my ideal and only buyer. So you can't threaten an ideal and only buyer, right? But what I decided about 8 or 10 weeks ago, I was just going to relax about the whole thing. And then about 6 weeks ago, I decided I didn't want to move house anyway in December, because I wanted somewhere to live at Christmas time. But the extraordinary thing, and what I've realised since I relaxed about the whole thing, is this is my home. It's a lovely flat. I love it here. I built the office in the garden. It's got a garden. The freeholders now put the garden up for sale. If I find a way to pay him without selling and buy the garden, whether I live here or not, I would always want to keep this, if I could, in my portfolio. So all I've just done is relaxed. But the point of this story is you never know the end of any story. We put it on the market on a Tuesday in April, and it's sold by Friday. And we all got terribly excited. Oh my God, 3 days, it's meant to be, da da da. Here I am, 8, 9, how many months is that later? 9 months later, still living here. And you just would never know. I mean, and I know the woo-woos listening will be thinking like me, it's meant to be. And somebody suggested ages ago that I went round and, performed some kind of sacred ceremony releasing it. And I didn't do that, so I didn't want to release it. I want to keep it. If I can find a way to keep it, I want to keep it. And I've managed that for 9 months already. Now, The thing that comes out of this, which is slightly more interesting than that, is that I got rid of all my possessions in July because
I know you're camping in your own flat.
Well, I'm not really camping. I sleep on the sofa bed, but it's terribly comfortable. That isn't a sacrifice at all. And the point of this bit is I got rid of all my possessions 6 months ago. And so I've only missed, well, I haven't missed any of it. That's the point. I've missed none of it. I've put on my wish list at Amazon that if I were staying here, so if the flat is saved and doesn't have to be sold, I need 5 items in the kitchen. So, when you make an omelette, you need a funny sort of thing, don't you, to flip it over. I can't do that at the moment. I've only got a wooden spoon. So I need a sort of spatula thing to make omelettes with. And my next story in a minute will explain why I make so many omelettes. I need a handheld blender, I need a measuring jug, I need scales to weigh things on, and I need a thing to juice lemons with. I've got one of those wooden reamers for travelling with, but actually they make a terrible mess and splatter it everywhere. And I need some light bulbs, and I can't buy light bulbs because I gave away my stepladder, so I can't replace them. But apart from those 6 items, there isn't anything I need that I didn't get rid of 6 months ago. Now, I was already a minimalist, but I gave away everything in my kitchen. It's completely empty, my kitchen. I don't have shelves. I don't have books. I've still got 5 or 6 lever arch files, which is a bit of a bummer. I've got a printer, which obviously wouldn't go on an aeroplane. Anything that doesn't go on an aeroplane from here on in has to go recycled. But what's amazing is for 6 months, I've lived as if I were about to get on an aeroplane and not missed any of the stuff I got rid of.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I had to buy a printer when I got here, but apart from that, I brought my lemon zester with me. That's the only thing I had to bring with me was a lemon zester.
Yeah, well, now if you go on Amazon, there are all sorts of better ways of squeezing a lemon. I mean, I like lemon in well, let me go on to my next one. I've been eating low carb since the 25th of September and lost 2 stone. The whole point of it wasn't weight loss, actually. It was to choose what you put in your mouth. But if you don't eat carbohydrates, weight just falls off. But there's nothing to drink except water. And so you've got to have a squeeze of lemon in it. And you can cut up a lemon and you can squeeze it in, or you can use the lemon reamer to get the juice of it out. But actually, they're all messy. I want one of those. I had a citrus juicer, and I had a juicer, both of which I've got rid of. I just want one of those things where you put half a lemon on a thing and squeeze it round. But they've got other better ways of doing that now if you go on Amazon, which is quite good fun. But anyway, so my 3 out of my 5 things are: I thought I'd sold the flat, but I'm still here. I've been living for 6 months with less and not bothered. I've been eating low carb since the 25th of September, and I honestly don't think I'll go back, and I don't think I'll come off for Christmas either because I feel so healthy. I'm back to writing Monday to Friday, which is something you said. I'm really pleased about that. And I'm loving the fact that we can then put our writing into the beautiful-looking Facebook notes.
Yeah.
Those are my celebrating sum up 2016, to be honest with you, because I've been in this sort of limbo for a long time.
Yeah, and that's, I'll talk about that at the end because it's been really quite an astonishing journey. I'm going to do it by month, if that's
okay. Yeah, fine, go mad.
So January, clicks and leads were flying high. I had my best month ever, took in over £20,000 on recurring, the first payments of recurring billing. I went on the cruise in the Caribbean, the Internet Marketers Cruise, which I loved. Early February, got off the cruise in early February, and we got into 5 Mustangs and we drove across America, which was possibly the most fun I've ever had in my whole life and simultaneously the most challenging thing I've ever done in my whole life. It made me face so many fears and made me realise how many of my fears were completely groundless. We ended up in San Diego at the end of a week or so, and I went to Traffic and Conversion Summit, which I'd never been to before, which was amazing. I completely missed one of my heroes, Gary Vee, talking on stage, giving the keynote, because we'd all been to a very lively party the night before and I was still in bed at 5 o'clock when he took the stage. March, I came home and I got bored very quickly and I went to Australia at the spur of the moment. I booked the ticket on the Thursday morning and I was on the plane by Saturday, arrived in Sydney Monday morning. And I met up with Neil again, which was an unexpected highlight because, when you've worked with someone and been partners with someone and it didn't work out, you can sometimes, lose touch. And
has he moved to Lisbon this week?
He has.
Yes. He didn't answer my question. I wasn't sure whether they were on holiday or whether they've moved. Lisbon, how nice.
He's still got jet lag, I expect, but I'm going to go and see him next year because, it reminded me just how much I liked him and how much fun he is and how clever and funny and just nice. And so that was great. And went for dinner. We went wave jumping together in Manly Beach. It was just an amazing experience. I got home within 4 days of getting home. Steve died, which was horrendous.
Yeah.
In amongst that, I've been reminded, because I've been watching Gary Vaynerchuk. He's had a new ident made, which has got like his theme tune on it, and in it you see the audience at Vayner World, which is the London event, and I'm in the second row and I can see myself. Which is really weird, because it was literally a week after Steve died, and I was invited to go by a very good friend of mine, Adrian Savage, who realised that I'd missed him in San Diego, and also that I was having a very difficult time. And he said, I've got VIP tickets, would you like to come? And then Phoebe came up to London with me, and we went to the meetup the night before in Soho Square, which really I got to credit for turning Phoebe's thinking around completely about what she wanted to do with her life, because, that's what set her off on the whole video production thing. This is all in March. And then I spoke at Steve's funeral, which was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do as a speaking gig. I don't think anything will be ever as tough as that. April and May, I can't remember anything about them. They were super tough months. I just kept my head down and carried on and tried to just get up every morning and carry on living, really. June was our Beyond the Laptop Lifestyle Summit.
Yeah.
Preparing for that kept me busy, kept me occupied, and it was a great event, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, although it was, hard work, especially for you, I think. July, another tough month. Don't remember anything about that. Just remember getting up every day and thinking, the sun's shining. Why is it shining? What am I going to do? And then in August, I started to feel a tiny bit better, and I started doing the rewrite of The Science of Getting Rich online, which started to make me think quite a lot about the law of attraction and how it related to me and my life, and how I needed to start sorting the thinking out. So that was the beginning of me starting to feel better, I think. September, I decided to move to Greece. Lots of different reasons, not least of which was that every time I walked out the door in Shoreham, there were too many memories and I couldn't handle it. October, moved to Greece with Sarah and started doing the Spirit Business course, which I had trouble with at the beginning due to the fact that my fellow students were largely away with the fairies, but some real serious players running that course, and I really enjoyed it, and it really helped me reconnect with what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So thanks to Mike and Kylie for that one. November, Phoebe hit 3,000 views on her YouTube channel. Now, she had about 500 views when she got going in around July or August, and really got going making her makeup videos, and taught herself how to do editing, and did the John Penberthy video SEO course. And that was a really nice thing. And I also realised the sunshine in Greece was helping me quite a lot. Every day waking up and looking out the door and seeing sunshine, it really does help. It's, I hated that grey, miserable, rainy thing day after day, relentlessly looking down a dark, rainy alley. I hated it. So December, I've just realised that in 30 days, I was talking to Phoebe yesterday, and in 30 days, she's gone from 3,000 views to 4,000 views. So it took her, nearly a year to get to 3,000 views, but it's only taken her 30 days to get to the next 1,000. So
that's the very definition of exponential, isn't it? Yeah,
I'm really excited about that, Judith. And we've been talking about it. She's actually given her a notice in at the pub, which I'm not massively happy about, but she says she really wants to force herself to move on. So we're coming up with ideas about what she could do with her video editing skills. I'm going to get her to make me an ident, and then I'm also going to get her to combine. I'm going to do lots of Facebook Live and Instagram Lives, and I'm going to get her to take them at the end of the week and turn them into a curated, edited vlog.
Shouldn't she put herself on People Per Hour or one of those platforms?
Yeah, well, I want her to have some stuff to show people first.
Yeah.
She's got her own videos.
Yeah.
She's doing the same for a fashion designer friend of hers, and she's also going to do the same for an antiques auctioneer friend of hers who's very young and very funky, and he's promoting his family auction business where they auction antiques via Snapchat. So she'll be able to take his Snapchats and turn them into a weekly vlog for him and do all the social media for him. So very excited about helping her because, A, she's a case study for me, obviously, and B, she's my daughter. The other thing about December is I've commissioned a new forum membership area. That's nearly ready to go live, and my app is nearly ready to go live. And I've also started documenting my progress to a brand new business. So it's been a year of highs and lows, Jude.
Indeed, yeah.
Yes, that's me done.
Yeah, good. So, do you have a word of the year, or did you pick a word of the week?
I do, Judith, and it applies to both of us. It's resilience.
Okay.
And for obvious reasons.
Yes. And I've picked word. My word of the year is word, because the fun of the word games last week, but also back to back, both of us being back to more writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Daphne Capsali, wasn't it, for me? Well, for me it was.
She's one of my who are what's impressed, actually. So let's talk about Daphne.
Okay, all right. Project updates then.
Well, I've put another 52 episodes of the podcast, including my 5 weeks holiday. And in a minute, I want to talk about how did we do the summit in response to Alison's request. But I just want to throw across your bows now, and indeed the listeners, that August 2017 also has 5 Wednesdays in it. So if anybody's listening that would like to stand in for me for the 5 Wednesdays in August, send me a message.
Yes, I think we need to qualify that. Otherwise, we'll get all sorts of people trying to insert.
Let them all reply. We can decide who we want to be on.
Okay. Well, it's not fair otherwise, is it? We ought to just say, really, that it needs to be people who are working with clients on a regular basis. Because
we ask you, the guest host, to bring the client challenge of the week.
Yes, exactly.
And it can be one of your own or one of your clients.
Yes, exactly.
In the business or marketing sense.
Yeah, that was a big success, wasn't it, having those guest presenters? I really enjoyed it.
Well, I think it brings a variety, doesn't it? And you will insist on making 52 episodes a year, you bonkers old thing. When anybody should be allowed to have a holiday.
Yeah, but you know what? This is another one of it should be word of the year, is consistency. I struggle mightily with consistency. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we've done these podcasts week after week, and people can rely on us on a Friday largely to get a podcast out by at least lunchtime. And that's a major thing for me. It proves to myself that I can be consistent with certain things. So. Well,
funnily enough, I am the opposite of you, as you know, and I err on the side of consistency. And in next week's episode, which we're going to do in about an hour's time, I'm going to talk about the downside of that. So I get the upside of that completely. And I think both of us, you've said before, and you're absolutely right, if the two of us weren't turning up in the same place at the same time every week, we wouldn't be recording episode 110 today, would we?
No, we wouldn't. And it is about exponential growth again, because, Phoebe's video, each one, and this ties into what I've written down for project updates, which is it's never one big event that makes you a success. It's lots of little actions piled onto each other, whether it's week after week or day after day or whatever, that makes a difference. I mean, I've been watching quite a lot of stuff about what made Casey Neistat so popular in such a short time frame. And actually, when you've watched a year of his videos, I mean, YouTube's very good. They throw up videos you haven't watched before. So I'm constantly being surprised by ones I haven't seen before. But he did a year and a half. So that, and it was largely daily. So there was at least 365 there. And he says everyone's doing daily vlogs now, but when I started, nobody was doing them. And it's a bit like John Lee Dumas. He went in and he started doing daily podcasts and he started crushing it, because people like to know there's something to turn up for on a regular basis. So, and we've all got this feeling that one thing is going to make the difference. It's like when I got invited to share my review of a book, Drive, that's it. They wanted to use my book review of Drive on International Business Times. And you still have these moments of hope. It's a bit like the X Factor and the Strictly Come Dancing kind of scenario, isn't it? That something will happen that will turn your entire life around and make you a sudden success. And actually it isn't. It's just doing little things consistently every single day, every single week. Sorry, I went onto a rant there, didn't I?
Well, now Alison asked if we could remember, and I already know that we can't, but let's see what we can dredge up. She said that, do you remember how you made the summit happen? Because in one episode, 1 week, you just had the idea spontaneously on air. And by the following week, you'd organised how you were going to do it. I can't actually remember how we did that. Can you?
Well, I do. I do.
Good.
We had the idea on the Wednesday. And on the Friday, we talked and said, yes, let's do something about this. And by Saturday morning, I'd registered a domain name and got a simple website up. And then we changed our name about the...
Actually, I was going to say we registered 2, didn't we? Because we changed... No. That was the name of the podcast we registered 2. We came up with a better name for the podcast, I think.
I think I registered one for the summit as well. Anyway, the point was that unless I take action quick, I lose momentum and go off the idea, because I realise how much work something's going to be. And this is blooming typical of my whole life. I've got into some incredible situations. Buying a hotel springs to mind. Having a fashion show themed around, I can't remember what it was themed around now, but I remember the food was Creole food. And I got all the fashion shops in Brighton. Anyway, it all still started with an idea. And I think the real trick is ideas are 10 a penny. Action is what counts. And I think if we both spring into action.
Well, I think we thought it was a good idea, didn't we? And the process must have been that we decided who we wanted to invite to speak. We certainly invited probably twice as many people as we actually interviewed. I remember at a certain point we decided that 18 was enough. I think I was going for 20, but the last 2 were being annoying, and I just said, let's just do 18.
Yeah.
And actually, if we did it again, which I don't think we would, 18 is more than you need, because that was 2 very long days on a weekend. You could probably do 12, 6 on Saturday and 6 on Sunday, I think. But most people said yes. We actually, what we did was we divided it as according to our strengths. So I did the admin, you did the tech, basically. And I don't know how to satisfy Alison's question here. Can you remember anything more about what we did?
Well, we took action, Judith. We had the idea. We took action.
But I think she's asking, a sort of mechanic type question. What did you do?
Well, we were using Trello in those days. I've given up on using it.
Well, I laughed because I said you insisted we use Trello, but then you wouldn't submit to it.
Yeah. So we broke the idea. We knew what we wanted it to look like at the end, and we broke that end goal outcome into tasks, and then we divvied up the task, like you say, according to the strengths. We had quite a lot of issues finding the right tech to run it on, and in fact we had to go with something that was suboptimal, because I wanted something where we could both, my ideal vision was that we would both be live on video and we'd have our guests on live on video as well, but we had to scale back my ambitions because it was going to be too stressful, it was going to be too technical, and we just couldn't face it. So I think the thing is, in retrospect, I love that we did it, and I love that all our guests were so amazing. I love that we've got the recordings, and it's created awesome content and a fantastic thing that we can either sell or give away. But actually, the market didn't want it.
We haven't made the best of it. We've done what we classically do, actually, in everything we do, you and I. We had a brilliant idea, we made it happen, then we dropped it and moved on to the next brilliant idea.
Yeah,
we haven't made the best of it.
Because it didn't get traction, it didn't get spontaneous traction, and we haven't worked it. And that's really interesting. That speaks again to this whole thing about never one big event. I was I still at that stage was living in hope that we'd do one thing that would just take off spontaneously. But
this doesn't, the value of what we've created is evergreen. It's not going to go off. And you could say, actually, that the greatest value of it, alongside Daphne and alongside the Mustangs, is that it got you out of Shoreham and into Stupor.
Yeah, yes, it did, because listening to all those people talking about being digital nomads made me want to do it again.
Yeah.
Instead of just listening to Escape to the Sun, Summer Sun, or watching it relentlessly on Saturday afternoon.
Yes. So actually, if we were to do something like that again, please, it's a bit like having a baby. Please don't make me have another baby. I don't think I want to do that again.
I definitely don't.
I'm trying to remember the pain of it, because it was...
I can remember it.
Extreme pain. But if we were to do something like that again, typically what would motivate you and I is that we would learn from it something for ourselves that might also have a value for our listener. And that's what we did with this. We created the podcast we would want to listen to, and we created the summit of the interviews with people we would want to talk to.
Very true.
And that's very you and me.
Yeah. And also that's what I did with the Business Success Factory podcast. Was I didn't know what to do next in my life, and I wanted to find out what made the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. So I went and interviewed a load of them.
Yeah. And I think the other thing about you and me is we don't really ask what people think. We just go and do it.
Yeah, totally. We don't give a what people think.
Well, I don't think it's that. I mean, I've got a lot of clients who, and ah, what do people think? Who cares? Just crack on.
Yeah, I think we're both massive action takers. That's the thing, isn't it? And, I definitely think there's something around this breaking something down into sections. I think it's something perhaps we both do naturally without even thinking about it. So, for example, when I knew I wanted to restart my membership site and launch a signature program, I had all the steps in my head that I needed to do, and that's why I think I'm blogging it, because I'm not doing them in any particular order, because I instinctively know what needs to be done first and what needs to be done 10th and what needs to be done before you do that bit. So breaking it down for me is where the value's coming, because it's enabling me to create a plan that's coherent to some degree to other people. And you're the same, the minute we have an idea and you instinctively know what needs to be done.
Well, I mean, funnily enough, the two examples today are the Christmas edition, which we're doing now, and the New Year edition. So as soon as we agreed that we would do that, I just had a flood of ideas about, we need to talk about, this in that one and that in that one. And it's just creativity, isn't it?
Yes, and that is really my theme for the year, is how I've come to realise how unusual creativity is, how much undervalued I've undervalued it in myself, and how I'm encouraging Phoebe and Nelson to realise how different they are because they're creative.
Well, when you started talking about that secret event, you went art, music, entrepreneurship and something else. I went, you mean creatives?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. Cool. Okay, so if we haven't answered your questions, Alison, in that flood of stream of consciousness for both of us, then do let us know. So if there's any...
I think she was interested in the idea that one week it was an idea and the next week we were up and running. Well, and the answer to that really is, if you have a cracking idea...
Crack on.
Start straight away, yes. Don't sit on it and go, is this a good idea, and talk yourself out of it and let it fade away.
If it makes you feel a stir of excitement in your gizzard, get on with it. Right, where are we up to?
We're up to... what do you want to tell us, if anything, about the podcast? We'll go on to who or what's impressed people of the year 2016.
Nothing really. I think if we were to solely look at the numbers, I get a bit frustrated sometimes, Judith, because we're ahead of people like James Schramko in the charts in iTunes, but he gets 70,000 downloads and we don't. And if actually we were on an upward trend, we're on a sideways trend right now, but I am absolutely, I don't care about, the numbers, as long as 500 to 600 people listen to us every single week around the world. That's enough for me. And it would be lovely if we got 70,000 downloads per episode. But what it will take, I think, is someone picking up the podcast and broadcasting it as being something brilliant to listen to. And then suddenly we'll get that. But we will only get that if we keep going. And that's the thing that I think we need to just bear in mind. We're creating value for people. We're giving people an opportunity to get to know us better as people. We're creating content for both of our blogs. And one day someone like Oprah will say, bloody hell, this podcast is brilliant. You must all listen to it. And then it'll explode.
I've got more things to say on this topic in the New Year show.
Okay, good. That's it. That's me.
Right, so who or what's impressed? I was going to go with, I've got 3 people who are my people of the year 2016 in a podcast sense. And the first one is Daphne, because Daphne in her book, 100 Days of Solitude, we both enjoyed, and it was a big trigger for you moving to Greece as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Because she was brave. She did it on her own. And yes, okay, she was in a family house and she was on an island where she speaks the language, but being alone day after day, night after night more particularly, it was such a brave thing. I just thought, blooming heck, what am I doing? Why am I letting my fear rule my life?
Interesting, that doesn't occur to me. Being on your own isn't brave to me. It's preferable.
Yeah, in the daytime perhaps, but not at night. I hate it.
I'm not scared of being on my own.
Oh, it's bizarre, isn't it? I wish
I was. Quite the opposite. I'm uncomfortable in enforced company.
Well, I don't know where this has come from. This fear of everything. I'm so. Everyone thinks of me as such a brave person, but I'm such a scaredy cat. It's unbelievable.
And you have weird fears as well.
Yeah.
I get the arachnids because quite a lot of people are scared of them. But, I mean, I think the other thing, and you said it earlier on, you said something about all my fears turned out to be groundless. Well, that's the whole point about fear, isn't it? It's false evidence appearing real. It's not real. And it's why things do seem more scary in the dark. And when you turn the lights on, they're not scary. And when in the daylight, they're less scary. I think it's because you can do something about it in the daylight, whatever they are. But in the night, sometimes, one can be fearful.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to carry on doing stuff that I'm scared of because I've just got to.
Oh, I think we've all got to. So my other two people of the year are Andy Murray with his #1 tennis achievement in the world and Ed Balls with his fantastic dancing thing.
Yes.
So there are my people who've impressed me this year. Who are yours?
Well, the people I've already mentioned, inspirational creators, Gary Vee, Casey Neistat, Daphne Capsali, Phoebe and Nelson, who are growing into real human beings and really developing their own creativity and, using anyone who does anything in their spare time. These kids are working ridiculous shifts. I mean, they work 12, 13-hour shifts in that gastropub, you've been there. And it's hard work. And then they come home and Nelson makes music and Phoebe makes videos. And I couldn't have made them do that, Judith. They're doing that for themselves, and that's just amazing. Sarah for helping with the house clearance. I couldn't have done that. She powered on through that house clearance. She sold everything. She gave everything away. She cleared out everything. She made me do things I didn't want to do because, we'd said that we were doing this. You have impressed the hell out of me. I don't know how you have sat there since April coping with what you've been coping with and just not knowing what's in your future and when it's going to happen. Really, really, really seriously impressed with that.
None of us know what's in our future and when it's going to happen ever about anything. And we have this illusion of, if I knew or if I was on top of it or if I could control it. I suppose maybe that's been my main learning from this, which is, when you sell a property, you don't control anything, you offer it. It's like offering a bowl of sweets and you wait for somebody to take one.
There's not such big investment in a bowl of sweets, is there?
Well, I am a firm believer of it's not the end of the story yet. We don't know how this story is going to end. And, there's an expression I think some teacher must have taught me 60 years ago, possessed, blind, sold, impatience. You've got no choice but to be patient. And, leaping into action is something that gives us an illusion of being able to control the minute-by-minute, day-by-day stuff. But the bigger things like, when your parents die and other ghastliness about people you love who are Paulie and Steve and all of that, we'd have no control over that. And thank God you didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I have learned this year is that the only thing you can control is how you react to things.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely right. How you respond. Yeah.
Talking of sweets, it's our Christmas episode, so pass those Quality Street because I like the big purple ones.
I can't have any this year because I'm on low carb, but thanks.
Pass the whole tin over then, love.
Yeah. Normally, once, a long time ago, it was one of my life's ambitions, one of my bucket lists to own my own tin of Quality Street. And I can remember buying that in something like 1980 something and being chuffed to bits with it. In fact, that was the year I flew business class for the first time. They were both on my bucket list, my own tin of Quality Street. And now the problem with your tin of Quality Street is there's all those orange creams and rose creams left over at the end. They're absolutely disgusting. They have to put in a bag and either throw away or take to the hairdresser.
Oh, I like them all. So if Katerina's gets any Quality Street, and I'm going to be in like a rat up a drain pipe.
So you'll be peppering this episode with lots of lovely little tinkly noises, will you?
Yes, I will. And now you've said that, I have to edit it out. So.
Well, I don't think it matters. We never edit anything out. We say we're going to edit it out.
All right. Well, I'll see you shortly for the New Year episode then.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.